joining us now, Ben Tribbett, back by popular demand. It's becoming like an everyday thing with Ben because he's on fire right now. He did a segment yesterday, explained everything going on with the Democratic caucus, who's in control, who's not, who's in, what's going on with Ken Plum. Now he's back by popular demand. Ben, good to have you again 2 days in a row, man.
Good morning, John. And since you're not watching CNN today, I think I better let you know that Steve Bannon's on there saying that Mr. Trump Jr. may have committed treason with his meeting with the Russians.
Let me put it on now. Is he on there really?
Well, his book is coming out, and that's one of the excerpts from the book is that he is saying that Trump Jr. committed treason with his meeting.
Yeah, well, okay. We'll see about that when it happens. But let's see. The last time I listened to Steve Bannon, we went down the tubes in Alabama, right? So, you know what? There's an old saying, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 2 times, I'm too stupid to have a job. So I already got burned on the Alabama thing with Bannon, and I'm about done with that. Now, let's go to this Justin Fairfax thing. As you know, Justin Fairfax got elected lieutenant governor. He's a lieutenant governor-elect right now. And he did leave his law firm because it's a conflict of interest. You can't be lieutenant governor and being a lawyer with a firm. It's just you can't do it. I mean, you either want to be lieutenant governor or not. But then get this. Get this, Ben. So he names a chief of staff, right? Now, a chief of staff is a full-time job with full-time pay. So he names a chief of staff for his lieutenant governor's office, much like Clark Mercer, who's the current chief of staff for Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam, and is the incoming chief of staff for incoming Governor Northam. And the guy says, okay, well, I'm going to take the job and take the pay and take all the money and take the benefits, but I'm also going to stay with my law firm, my boutique firm in Washington, D.C., I'm going to stay with that, continue to make money there. So I'm chief of staff. I'm a lawyer. I'm getting paid for 2 jobs. I guess I'll be in the Capitol when I feel like it. Look, Ben, I got to tell you, I saw that. I thought it was a joke. I thought, okay, this has to be somebody made this up. Then I find out it's true. That's got to be the height of arrogance. I mean, how do you take a chief of staff job and then stay with a law firm? How do you do that?
So, okay, let's break this down a little bit. Virginia's ethics laws are pretty soft on these things, okay? And it's interesting because the reason that this is actually not allowed for Justin to stay at the law firm that he's currently at, why he's going to have to change his job. And Rip Sullivan ran into this also because Rip had been a partner at Reed Smith before he was elected to the House of Delegates, is it's actually the Virginia bar that's creating these rules for lawyers because the legal conflicts of interest are actually more imposed in Virginia than any conflicts of interest with your government office, that's where we should start with, okay? So this legal, what's called basically it's like an advisory opinion of different situations lawyers can get themselves into. Essentially, this was issued a couple of years ago that said a legislator can't work at a firm that does business with the state or lobbies the state. So I praised Justin Fairfax on Twitter when he announced he was leaving the firm. To be blunt, John, I mean, he had to leave the firm. Right. Really wasn't an option for him. Right. But, I wanted to be nice and say, hey, you made a good decision. That having been said, as you saw this weekend, that created a whole big outbreak on Twitter of these accounts that were coming back to attack me, and then Justin unfriending me on Facebook, and all this craziness around saying that he made a good decision to leave the firm. And what was interesting was I'd also noted in there that the article said his chief of staff was planning to stay at the firm. So this has definitely hit some sort of sore spot, and I really can't put my finger on why it's hit a sore spot because, as you said, I feel like this is an obvious situation. People that are doing business with anyone that has either a business before the state or their partners have business before the state or anything else that could cause any citizen to not be sure who you're representing when you're talking to them is a job you shouldn't be holding while you're in a public job. And, it's unprecedented. And I know it's definitely creating a lot of discussion even among Governor Northam's team. I've heard people talking about this, of they can't figure out what's going on. And then in the article it says that, they really won't explain it further. So I just think that not only is it a bad decision, but it's been the PR handling of this has been so badly mangled that they've made it an even bigger thing.
Ben, it's the height of arrogance. I mean, I don't even know how to spin this. You want to be the chief of staff for the lieutenant governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, then be the chief of staff. If you can't afford the pay, then don't take the job and find someone else. I mean, you cannot be a chief of staff of a divided Senate in a Commonwealth the size of ours with what's at stake in this General Assembly and those coming for the lieutenant governor. And also, this is a guy that we would think that he's going to run for governor in whatever that is, 2021. He's certainly going to run for governor. And he's got a chief of staff that has a conflict of interest, that has another job, that his eye's not on the ball. And why is he doing it? I mean, there's lots of candidates out there that would love to be the lieutenant governor's chief of staff, and they would show up for work at 8 o'clock and go home at 5 or 6 like everybody else does, instead of working whenever they can fit it in amongst their $1 million law job. I mean, I don't get it. I think it's arrogant. I think the way they handled it is arrogant. And, I'm glad that you were one of the people that stood up to it. But look, they're not going to back down. I guess Justin figures, look, I won. Screw you. I'll do whatever I want. I don't know how. I mean, you can't even spin this.
I'm not going to put words in Justin's mouth, but I will say this. I think that, number one, this is a lack of experience thing. I don't think he understands the ramifications of doing this. My understanding is that, first of all, it's very, very difficult to keep down a job while you're running for statewide office. And so this law firm brought Justin in and let him run for lieutenant governor, and he kept a job while he was running. That's not an easy job to find. So I can understand why there's some loyalty there also. But it's not a good decision. It's actually a very, very bad decision. It gets him off on the wrong foot completely. And, John, this is a thing that is actually, and I think it deserves a lot more attention, because I've been working on this issue for a number of years. See, this is when Justin really personalized it this weekend and, his feelings got hurt or whatever. I just think that he doesn't understand. This is a much broader issue that many of us, long before he ever got involved, have been working on for a long time. Mm-hmm. And we've seen a rise in the number of legislators, especially from Northern Virginia, whose day jobs is lobbying. Now, 25 years ago, what you would generally do if you were a legislator is you might be a farmer, you might be a attorney in your local courthouse, you might be a teacher. That was our part-time legislature in Virginia. Now, we have quite a number of members who are doing lobbying during the day at the federal level, or in some cases lobbying other states, and then they come to Richmond as legislators. I covered on my blog a few years ago when one legislator who worked for a major telecom company was in a private caucus meeting having to recuse herself on the floor of votes, but explaining the bill to her colleagues in caucus, and how as a legislator she had access to the caucus that a normal person wouldn't have. That wasn't right. That wasn't really a real recusal if she was still speaking on the bill in caucus. Right. Just yesterday I was on the phone with a major executive in Silicon Valley about another issue, and they were asking about this, and they said to me, I don't understand. I heard something about this other company that's a competitor of theirs retaining a legislator. How do you do that? And I was like, well, a lot of these legislators are lobbyists, and what they do is they retain them to lobby in other states. And this person was just stunned. They're like, what? This is a thing of, Virginia's tradition of part-time legislators. I don't think it was envisioned of part-time legislators that were lobbyists in other states. This legal issue is the exact same thing. Now, even in Northern Virginia at the local level, in the Fairfax Board of Supervisors, we pay supervisors a full-time salary, $95,000 a year to serve. There's multiple members of the Fairfax Board that have kept outside employment as well. And so this is an ongoing issue. I think it's something that the General Assembly needs to pick up. I think they need to tighten the rules, because what is being suggested here, that the Lieutenant Governor's Chief of Staff could also be working for a law firm that is taking on multiple clients, and that you could give the appearance of potentially getting favoritism by retaining that law firm, is horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. It's a terrible way to get started. And, if this is how Justin's going to kick off his campaign for governor in 4 years, I think it's going to be absolutely disastrous.
Not good. And you're right, Ben. There's the conflict of interest. And if you think that people are not going to hire the firm because he's there, if they have a particular issue they want to lobby, of course they're going to hire the firm. That's part of the reason he wants to stay in the job. They can sit there and deny it all they want, right? The benefit is that given the choice of various law firms that charge a lot of money, you're going to pick the firm with a bill coming up that you have interest in, that they're part of their firm. One of their principals in their firm, or big lawyers in their firm, is the chief of staff of the lieutenant governor, who could break a tie. I mean, are you kidding me? Of course they're going to pick that firm. That's why he's there. And I think anyway, they can't even excuse their way out of it. And the other thing that I found disturbing here is, look, we all can disagree on certain things, okay? That's part of what the public format is. You're the lieutenant governor. We can disagree. He and I can disagree. You and I can disagree. But you have a dialogue. You have a debate, right? And so for Ben Tribbett to say, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. And then there's he starts a Twitter barrage war and then blocks your account access. I mean, I don't know where you're going with this. I mean, you want somebody like Ben Tribbett. You want to have a discussion with him. You want to have a discussion with me, whether you agree or not. Blocking them. What does that do? I don't see it, and I think it's arrogant, and I think they're going to get bit in the butt with it. But look, you can't legislate everything. It's like Dick Saslow says. You can't legislate morality and how to do the right thing, right? You just run out of laws. You have to just do the right thing. If you want to be lieutenant governor and you want to run for governor, do the right thing. And having a chief of staff who's employed by a big-time firm with big-time money involved in big-time issues that you're going to be deciding and advocating on, just a terrible idea.
Yeah, it's really bad, John. And I will just add this also. I've noticed a pattern of when people take on Justin on an issue, that there are a number of social media accounts that are not attached to anyone's particular name, that within a very short period of time on the same days, all seem to generate up to either attack the person or defend Justin or whatnot. And it is definitely a coordinated thing. And, Justin has to be smart enough as a public official that we can all see this too, okay? So when these accounts all get started up for, 30 minutes on a Saturday morning all together, and none of them, I think, are associated with real people or real names, okay, this is not a good way to operate, and it's not going to be successful for him in Richmond doing that kind of behavior.
We're going to end it on that. Ben Tribbett calling out Justin Fairfax for what he's done on social media with these trollers and fake accounts, and also hiring a chief of staff that is a big-time lawyer with a big-time firm, and that's a full-time job, and the guy's going to do two jobs. It's just unbelievable to me, an abuse of power and just totally arrogant, and really makes me sad. I mean, it makes me mad and sad at the same time. Mad because it pisses me off, and sad because I thought Justin was better than that. And, back to the same thing, money, power, influence. I guess that's what his whole campaign was about. Well, I voted for Vogel. I'll leave it at that. Ben, great having you, man. Thank you.
Thanks,
always
John.
appreciate it. Best insight in Virginia you're going to get right here from Ben Tribbett. You want to follow him now at Not Larry Sabato.